It's so nice to see our boardroom filled with happy people.
Even better.
All set? Great. I want to welcome everyone to our board meeting tonight. Could we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner.
Here.
Trustee Zora.
Here.
Trustee Council.
Here.
Trustee Sheehan.
Here.
Trustee Stewart.
Here.
Trustee Silva is absent. President DeCipio.
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, moving on to the first item on our agenda is the presentation of the Park District's referendum by Jessica Candidate. Jessica, welcome. And Jessica is the Executive Director of the Community Park District, one of our partnering bodies.
President DeCipio, Village Manager.
Is that on?
Now it's on. Now you can hear me. All right, President DeCipio, Village Manager Cedillo. Maybe it's not working at all, but that's okay. I can be loud.
Yeah, let's switch it out.
Okay, for a second I thought they were going to make me hold a microphone and a clicker, and it was going to get really complicated. Again, I'm Jessica Candidate. I'm the Executive Director of the Community Park District of Grange Park. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees, the village staff for allowing me to take a little bit of your time today to talk about the referendum measures that the Community Park District has on the April 4th ballot coming up. To get to the details, I want to kind of go back and talk about what the Park District has been doing over the last, well, 3.5 years. So I've been serving as the executive director since August of 2019. In fiscal year 21-22, the Community Park District of LaGrange Park served more than 1,795 households through our various programs and services such as yoga, preschool, pickleball, all those great things. This does not account for attendance at things like our concert series, Wacky Wednesdays, so we serve hundreds and hundreds of additional residents every year at our community events. Since fiscal year 18-19, and despite navigating a global pandemic, our recreational programming revenue has jumped by 26%. So just to give you an idea, with the operational efficiency studies that we've been doing, if you do a comparable time frame, the revenue is only growing at about a rate of 8% every 3 years. So we're in really great shape. By the end of fiscal year 21-22, we had 4,200 individual program registrations. So that's great. People are using our programs. We're doing awesome. Really exciting announcement. Our brand new summer camp, which we started during COVID year 2020, is running almost at capacity. We opened registration February 9th, and as of February 26th, we had 101 LGP residents already signed up for summer camp. So very exciting. That being said, despite all of that good news, our residents are still going to the Park District of LaGrange and spending about $500,000 there every single year. Back in 2022, actually earlier than that, in December of 2021, we started a comprehensive community-wide study and master plan study. Part of that was focus groups, and then we administered a comprehensive community-wide survey. Most of LaGrange Park residents really enjoy what we do. 87% agree that we offer affordable recreational programming, and 81% agree that there are enough parks here in LaGrange Park. The only thing that LaGrange Park residents disagreed on is that there was enough indoor opportunities for you. So 61% say they disagreed or strongly disagreed that we had enough indoor recreational opportunities in LaGrange Park. As part of that study, it was determined that on average, U.S. citizens have approximately 34 hours available for recreational use each week. Using this figure, we can estimate that LaGrange Park residents have about 23 million hours of recreational time available to them every year. And we know that only a fraction of that time is spent here at home. Most of it is spent in other communities. In 2019, LaGrange Park residents spent $529,000 at the Park District of LaGrange. My friend Jenny, who's the executive director of the community park of the Park District of LaGrange, is sitting in the back, so she's helping me do these studies. They're a great partner for us as well. From January 1st through February 13th, LaGrange Park residents had already invested more than $63,000 in program fees over at LaGrange. LaGrange Park residents also spend more than $60,000 in membership fees alone at the Oak Brook Park District. Coming from Oak Brook Park District prior to 2019, I can tell you that LaGrange Park residents were spending about $200,000 there every year as well. So between LaGrange, Oak Brook, and other agencies, we are anticipating that LaGrange Park residents are investing more than $800,000 in recreational opportunities outside of our community. So what does that mean? So yes, we've been doing better here in LaGrange Park. We're bringing in about $635,000 in program revenue every year. However, we understand that about 37% of that is coming from non-residents. So LaGrange Park residents are spending $400,000 here at home. They're spending $500,000 over in LaGrange. They're spending between $300,000 and $500,000 in other communities. What happens then is that $500,000 to $800,000 goes directly back into those communities to make those recreational parks and facilities better. So when you look at typical improvement costs of parks and playgrounds, a standard playground is about $250,000. Tennis court renovations can run upwards of $150,000. A pour and play playground surface, so that spongy surface that everybody asks for, that's $300,000 for a typical playground. So when we have a recreational revenue going to other communities can utilize that for those upgraded services. That rec investment does not include places like YMCA or private fitness facilities either. So what about taxes? So other good news is that our operational efficiency is above the standard for most Illinois park and recreation agencies. We operate at about 40% program revenue. So that means 60% of our general operating funds come from tax dollars. And you can see here, this tax bill is from a Stone Avenue property in 2021 that was valued at about $500,000. And you can see that little purple piece is what LaGrange Park residents invest in parks and recreation here in LaGrange Park. So despite operating and maintaining over 20 acres of parkland, employing, I don't know, about 8 full-time employees, more than 50 part-time employees, we're levying less taxes than the public library. So, all right, here we go. On April 4th, residents of LaGrange Park will have the opportunity to decide the future of parks and recreation right here at home. The Park District has 2 ballot measures on the April 4th election ballot. The first one is to issue $10.7 million in bonds, and that would be for the construction of an addition to the existing facility at 1501 Barnesdale Road. This construction would include a gymnasium, an additional lobby, and then infrastructure for future growth. The second question is for a 0.038% tax rate increase, which would generate about $150,000 additional in operating revenue for the Park District every year. The $10.7 million bond issuance would be a temporary 20-year tax increase. The tax rate increase for the $150,000 would be a permanent tax increase. So what does that mean? If you have a home that's valued at $300,000, building the gymnasium will cost you about $17 a month for the next 20 years. The tax rate increase, generating an additional $150,000 in operational revenue for the Park District, will cost you about $3 a month, and that'll be permanent. So what's the proposal? So what you see here, the square up front, I don't know if I have it all. No, sorry. Essentially, part of our master plan process is we asked residents, what do you want to see? What do you want to see the Park District provide? So the top ask for indoor recreational opportunities was 57% asked for an indoor walking track. Almost 46% asked for a gym, for added gym space here in the Grange Park so that we can do open gym, increased athletic opportunities, that type of thing. So this is the conceptual plan that would be constructed with the $10.7 million. This is a phase one of a total expansion of the 1501 Barnesdale Road property. You can see that there's a gymnasium, there's a call for a suspended walking track, and then there's also outdoor concession space there. So this is the existing facility at Haynesworth. If you've been to Haynesworth Park, you know we've got the ball fields there, we've got the concession stand. That concession stand would come down, concessions would then be offered, and we'd re-envision that whole area. Redo the playground area, redo the parking. That would be all part of phase one of that project. Perhaps most exciting is that this would result in a controlled entrance for Ready Teddy Preschool and summer camp. We have 150 kids that come through every week for Ready Teddy Preschool. We have 120 kids that come through every day during the summertime for summer camp right now. So because we're a public facility, that facility is open the entire time these kids are here. This expansion would allow us to control that entrance and create a new main entrance with a new lobby and a controlled, safer circulation area for public entrance. So, if we talk about bringing recreation home and both measures pass, you can expect the Park District to increase summer camp offerings. We could add after school and out of school activities. We can add open gym, youth sports, adult sports, group exercise, senior program, birthday parties, performing arts, and special events. We get a lot of questions, well, why don't you use the school? We add this gym, it would be in addition to what we currently offer at the schools. So if you were to walk into Park Junior High this week, you'd see 72 adults participating in our adult pickleball program. You'd see 42 adults participating in our men's wiffle ball program. You'd see 48 adults participating in the women's volleyball program. And you'd see more than 150 kids that come through each school year who participate in our Footlight Players theater program. The Footlight Players generate probably about 1,200 spectators for each show, which is really exciting. So 2,400 adults and family members come and watch. I know it's really exciting, I'm sorry. Come in and watch these theater performances. So we are utilizing the school districts. We are maximizing our space with them. So anything that we're able to add would be an expansion of what we currently offer. Brook Park School opened their new gymnasium back in 2019, so because of COVID restrictions, we weren't able to utilize anything there, but we are in conversation with them. In fact, D95 says that if we can find the space for out-of-school and after-school programs, they'd be willing to bus LaGrange Park residents from Brook Park School to the Community Park District for after-school care. So there's two options for residents. If residents vote yes on both measures, again, we can increase programming. We would anticipate that this facility would be self-sustaining within the first year. After the first year, it would actually generate revenue for capital improvements. So we think after year two, we can see almost $250,000 go back into the parks and facilities in the Grange Park with the addition of one gym here. If residents vote no and either measure fails, then we don't build the gym. And nothing really changes. So you'd see slower improvements in your parks. We'd use the basic finishes, basic playgrounds, and it just kind of goes along as status quo. And that is all I have. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Jessica. Anybody on the board have any questions for Jessica? Trustee Laudner?
Well, I certainly don't have any questions. I mean, it's a very thorough, fairly large piece of work that you've put together. Obviously, it's going to come down to what the residents in this village want. Two of the individuals on this board were involved in the Park District in the past, of course, and at a time when we did build the rec center, and that's what it comes down to: is what does the village residents want, and I'm sure they'll speak, and wish you the best of luck, of course, but. I think it looks like a great plan. I mean, but a lot of work's gone into it. But we'll see how things turn out. It was a tough run when we did it in the mid '90s. Worked out very well, But we'll see where this goes. It all depends on what our residents want.
That's right. That's a great point. The last time the Park District passed a referendum was in 1953. The last time we went, and that was for $200,000 to build the amphitheater and a field house and 2 ball fields and some tennis courts at Memorial. The last time we went to referendum was 25 years ago in 1998 to build the gymnasium. We lost by 26 votes in April. So, and that was for a permanent tax rate increase. This is for a bond for construction, so it's a little bit of a different formula.
Jess, you said there was 1953 the last time the bond passed.
The last time a referendum was passed, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct.
Jess, thank you so
Thank you.
much. It was 25 years ago. We won twice, actually. The first time we lost by 7, and then I don't know what happened the second time, but primarily it was for a gymnasium in a Park District building because we were out of Barnesdale School at the time, and it didn't pass either way. So we need a gym in LaGrange Park attached to our Park District. Good luck to you and your board, and I know your board president is here. Welcome, Lucy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We have our first public town hall meeting tomorrow, actually, March 1st. The second will be an open house on March 13th before the board meeting if anybody wants to come. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, next up we have swearing in on paid on-call firefighters Brendan McManus, Colin Neff, and David Skiba, and Spencer Schotthauer. We'll move on to this past December with the retirement of Captain Jim Greska from paid on-call fire suppression duties. An opening occurred in the fire department officer ranks. As such, this past January 1st, Lieutenant John Fagan was promoted to captain, and Acting Lieutenant Ted Zimmerman was promoted to lieutenant. Captain John Fagan was initially hired by our department as a paid-on-call firefighter in July of 2000 and was promoted to lieutenant in November of 2020. John has been involved in various aspects of the department operations over the years, including fire prevention, and is part of MABUS 10 Origin and Cause team, MABUS 10 Hazardous Materials Response team. He has also been involved with the technical rescue team and helps teach with the Romeoville Fire Academy and COD. He is a full-time fire lieutenant with a nearby village and lives with his family on Oak. Lieutenant Ted Zimmerman was initially hired by our department as a paid-on-call firefighter in July of 2001 and was moved to an acting lieutenant position in November of 2021. Ted has been very involved in the department over the years, assisting with many different projects and training activities. Ted works full-time in public works in a neighboring village and lives with his family on Morgan. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Chief.
I can first ask John Fagan to come up. If I can just take a second, and we try to talk about this every time we have a swearing in or a promotion. Again, everyone who may not be familiar with it, just want to let everybody know that we operate a mainly paid on-call fire department. So all of our personnel, they technically don't volunteer their time, but they have to make a big commitment to be around, and many of them volunteer hours. They may not put in a pay sheet for everything they do. So everyone here tonight that is either getting promoted or sworn in as a firefighter getting off probation puts an enormous amount of commitment to the village. They enjoy it, so it's not necessarily always like work to them, but there is a big commitment to protect the village. All of them either have separate jobs, full-time careers. Some of them go to school, and some are trying to get through, whether it's EMT school or paramedic school, and just starting out looking at what their career might be. So I do want to acknowledge that first, because all of these individuals here tonight, and a lot of them in the crowd that are not being sworn in but are active members of our department. They just do a wonderful job, and are greatly committed to our community, so I thank them for that. This was exemplified over the last couple weeks, and especially in the last 3 to 4 days. We had a lot of our personnel here. We're trying to put our new pumper in service, and all of the equipment had to be moved and put on and drilled, and all sorts of different things had to be done to get that in service sometime this week. And there were just a ton of our personnel working hand in hand, having a great time. Some, conflicts in a positive way. We have very good personnel, discussing where things would go, how we're going to do things. Very great discussions, but they were very, well received with one another. It wasn't like arguments. It was just such a great time over the last several days, having so many people trying to get this job done, and it kind of exemplifies the overall commitment that happens here on a regular basis. So, John, I am sorry I dragged you up here and had you stand through that, but you can sit down now. No, I'm just kidding. First of all, one of our promotions tonight is John Fagan, who's being promoted to captain, or who has been. We kind of saved our promotions and swearing-ins tonight. As of January 1st, John was promoted to captain. As you heard, John has a lot of experience and brings a wealth of varied fire service experience through all the different activities he has been involved in, different phases of the fire service. John is well deserving of tonight's promotion, or of this promotion. He is, his main goal will be to run the fire prevention division, but he is very active in all other areas and will be a very good, great officer. He has been already as a lieutenant, but being promoted to captain, taking on additional responsibilities, he is well deserving of this. So first of all, congratulations. And I think our Assistant Village Clerk, is that your title? Deputy Village Clerk, I'm sorry, is going to swear you in first, and then we'll do a little ceremony here.
Kind of an awkward location. If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. Thank you. I, John Fagan,
I, John Fagan,
hereby solemnly swear
hereby solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend
that I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully carry out
and I will faithfully carry out
all the duties
all the duties
imposed upon and entrusted in me
imposed upon and entrusted in me
as fire captain
as fire captain
of the Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois.
of the Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois.
Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
Also, kind of as a formality and a great part of our ceremony, we usually ask a significant other or a family member or someone special in someone's life to actually put their new badge on. So John is obviously going from lieutenant to captain. So he's looking around trying to decide if it should be his wife or not. But if you could just introduce your family also.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to introduce my wife, Susan, my oldest son, Alec, my daughter, Marilyn, and my youngest, Katie, sitting in the front row trying to sink into the seats and not be seen.
Thank you.
I forgot to add long suffering.
There you go. Congratulations. Again, we look forward to John's leadership in his new position. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, John.
Next, if I can have Ted come up, Ted Zimmerman. Ted, for some time, has filled an acting lieutenant's position on the department. We don't usually do that, but we had a person on long-term medical leave, and we needed the leadership at one of our stations, and Ted had scored pretty high on the last lieutenant's exam, so we moved him up to an acting position. Other people recommended it to me, and it was a great idea. It gave him some experience for especially his position here tonight. And again, Ted is well deserving. If you don't know Ted, Ted's commitment, his enthusiasm, and his passion for our fire department, just not the fire service in general, is unbelievable. Ted, living on the east side of town, has been assigned to Station 2, I think, his entire time here, and he is a leader over there. Well before he was a lieutenant, he was kind of a go-to person. I don't want to say barn boss, because that's a negative connotation sometimes, but he really gets things done and tries to get people motivated and tries to instill his passion into everybody else. So, Ted, again, you're very deserving of, and congratulations.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Theodore Zimmerman,
I, Theodore Zimmerman,
hereby do solemnly swear
I hereby solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend
I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
and I will faithfully carry out
I will faithfully carry out
all the duties
all the duties
imposed upon and entrusted in me
all upon and trusted in me
as a fire lieutenant
as a fire lieutenant,
of the Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois.
Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois.
Stop. Congratulations.
Again, Ted, if you could introduce your family.
I have my wonderful dad right here, my brother, my mother, my aunt, my sister, and my uncle's not here, but Lee Kudia, who was 30 years on the department.
Great. Thank you. And then if you want to bring somebody up. How you doing? Okay, how you doing? Congratulations. All right, had a lot going on here tonight. So if I can ask Brendan McManus, Colin Naff, Dave Skibba, and Spencer Schattauer, come up. Each of these personnel have completed all the requirements to complete their probationary period over the last 2 years. Brendan McManus, he completed his probationary period on January 20th, lives with his family on Newberry. Colin Naff completed his probation on February 8th, lives with his family on 29th Street. Dave Skibba completed his probationary period on November 21st of last year and also lives with his family on 29th Street. And Spencer also completed his probationary period on November 21st and lives with his significant other on LaGrange Road. Spencer also just recently graduated the paramedic school and is employed full-time on our PSI contract as a paramedic firefighter with the village. So he's a good addition in that part also. Again, all of the personnel had to go through a lot of training over the last 2 years. Usually your first 2 years here during your probationary period are a very big commitment, more than usual. That commitment obviously continues in other ways, but if the personnel come here without being a firefighter, they have to go through the Firefighter Academy, which is usually a 5 or 6 month program, 2 to 3 times a week. They have to go to EMT school, and then some of them go on to paramedic school. Also, they have to get their driver's license to drive our fire vehicles, so it takes many hours of training on each vehicle by many of our personnel who try to assist them. Then they can go get their license to drive fire apparatus and be entrusted with that. So all of that has to take place with a test at the end of that period to come off probation. So all of them have worked very hard over the last almost 2 years or some to get to where they are tonight. We greatly appreciate their commitment to our community. We look forward to their service with us and for our residents in our village. And again, we thank them for making this commitment. So congratulations on all you've accomplished so far.
So we'll do this together. I'm going to say state your name, and we'll start this way and go to the end, and you can each say your name separately, and then you can finish the oath together. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Spencer Shatower.
I, David Skiba.
I, Brendan McManus.
I, Colin Neff.
Hereby do solemnly swear
Hereby do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend
that I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
of America
of America
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and I will faithfully carry out
and I will faithfully carry out
all the duties
all the duties
imposed upon and entrusted in me
imposed upon and entrusted in me
as a firefighter
as a firefighter
of the village of Grange Park,
of the village of Grange Park,
Cook County, Illinois.
Cook County, Illinois.
Congratulations.
All right, this will take some coordination. What we're going to do is I'm going to have each of our new firefighters talk about their family that may be in the crowd who's here and who they're going to invite up to pin them. We'll go through each of our firefighters. We'll do that, then we'll have them all come up, and we'll kind of do this as a group, and hopefully it'll work out well.
All right. Here tonight I have my father, Paul Shatower, my mother, Marcia Shatower, my girlfriend's parents, Scott Holton and Jill Holton, and then my girlfriend, Cora Holton, who will be coming up to pin me tonight.
So here tonight I have my wife, Julie, and daughter, Amelia. You guys hear her, obviously. And then mom from my wife's side, Rose, my father, John, and then my sister with her husband and my nephew, and then my brother.
I have my dad right over here, my brother Colin, my mom. I have my grandfather, my grandmother, and my sister over there.
I have my mom and dad, my brother, and my grandmother with me tonight.
Great. Thanks to everybody who came out tonight, family-wise. We appreciate you being there. I know they do, and we do also as kind of a different family. But we do appreciate you being here. So if you want to come on up, we'll give this a try. Also, as a side note, for those that don't know, Brendan's brother is also on the fire department with us, and his father was also on the fire department in the past with us and is in the fire service full-time. So I'll hand these out, and we'll give it a go. Just turn that to open it. If you'll hang on one second, let's do this all at once. You okay there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Great. Congratulations again to each of you, and thank you again to the families. Appreciate it. You're good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We obviously have a lot of people here. There is cake tonight over in the firehouse. I'm sure they might leave you a morsel or two after the meeting, but they're probably all going to head over there now. But thank you.
Thank you, Chief. They all go. Cake? Come on.
We'll empty it out. It's more the cordial than anything else.
Would you guys rather stay?
I would.
Thank you.
It is freaking
Bye,
hot
Jess.
here, isn't it hot?
Carson, you're next in a couple years, buddy.
He wants this kind of one.
Even better.
We're hiring.
Yeah, turn in your application.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Joe. Krista.
Okay, moving on, next in our agenda is public participation of agenda-related items only. Would anyone care to address the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Sandy?
The items this evening on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of the minutes for 1, Village Board meeting, January 24th, 2023. 2, Village Board closed session meeting, January 24th, 2023. B, action, accounts payable and payroll summary, motion 1, to authorize the president and chairperson of the Finance Committee to sign the register for bills and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers, and motion 2, to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and the next village board meeting, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its next meeting.
Motion to approve consent agenda is presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Call the motion, Sandy?
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy. Moving on to our next item is our village manager's report. Julia?
Check, check. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I have just one item to report on this evening, and that is regarding the budget. Staff is actively working in the preparation of the fiscal year 24 budget process. We're spending the bulk of our time on that right now. Our goal at this time is to get a draft budget out to the board by March 9th. If we can get it to you sooner, by March 7th, that's also our goal. As you might have guessed, we're just a little bit behind in the process because we started a little bit later than we normally would have started this year. And our first meeting to review the budget will be on March 14th and then on March 28th. And those meetings take place with the Finance Committee reviewing the budget, answering questions, led by our chair, Trustee Lautner. And with that, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, next up is Administration Committee, Trustee Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 2 items on the agenda tonight. The State of the Village address. The village hosted a State of the Village reception on February 6th at Posto 31. Thank you to the many community members who joined village officials and staff for this annual event. This year, the village developed a dynamic video presentation to highlight news and accomplishments from the past year. The State of the Village video premiered at the event and is now available on the village's YouTube channel. The second item is the Community Arbor Day nominations. National Arbor Day is Friday, April 28th.
the village is accepting nominations to plant a tree in honor or in memory of a person or group that has made a positive contribution to the community. Trees are planted in a public space during a ceremony, and a small plaque is installed at the base of the tree. Visit the village's website to download the nomination form and submit your nomination by April 14th. Contact Sandy Backledge for more information. And this concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Moving on to Building and Zoning Committee, Trustee Zora.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to report the Building Department activities for January 2023. 30 building permits were issued in January compared to 32 in 2022. Estimated construction costs for the month were just over $894,000, which is slightly up about 6% compared to January 2022. Permit fees collected were nearly $19,000, which is 16% more compared to January 2022. 112 inspections were conducted this past January compared to 95 in January 2022. 4 inspections were not approved. Interim building official Mike D'Onofrio from GovTemps USA began working for the village this past Tuesday. So far, he's been a wealth of information and is helping with various daily activities and projects. Staff work with the Adult Protective Services to meet with the resident due to concerns raised about living conditions due to hoarding and utilities. Staff met again to discuss the proposed McNaughton A&S project. Staff, along with Mark from Hancock Engineering, participated in the virtual pre-application meeting with MWRD, an engineering firm for Aldi. Staff completed inspections, including an inspection from Cook County Health at the new Andy's, allowing for a business license to be approved, and Andy's is now open, so visit. Code enforcement followed up on a concern identified by PD in regards to a damaged guardrail on a walkway at an apartment building. Staff was requiring the property owner to have an architect or engineer evaluate various similar conditions at the property, and that is all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Zora. Engineering capital projects, Trustee Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. Summary report for January 2023. As part of the lead service replacement program, a hydro excavating project was developed to help determine and confirm the water service line material at a number of residential locations. The village advertised for bids in January with the bid opening date of February 1st. Approximately 100 locations will be potholed in the public parkway. The information gathered would be part of the village's preliminary inventory of their lead water services to be reported to the Illinois EPA in April 2023. The village opened bids for 2022-2023 sewer cleaning and televising program on January 10th. The lowest bidder was National Power Rodding Corp. with a bid of $56,848.75. The project was awarded at the January 25th board meeting. After contract execution, the contractor will begin work and should complete the project by the end of April. This is a yearly maintenance program to keep sewers functioning at full capacity and also document sections of that need repair. And lastly, design work continued for the 2022-2023 sewer repair program. This project involves point repairs on sewers located throughout the village that were identified by recent televising and cleaning projects. The sewer sections identified for repair represent isolated segments of sewers that need replacement. And that concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Stewart. Public Safety Committee, in lieu of Trustee Silva not being here, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following is Police Department summary of activities for January 2023. In addition to the attached statistical summaries for the following items are being reported to apprise the village president and board of trustees on current police department operations for the month. The total number of crimes for the first month of 2023 are 15.9% higher than last year, with 34 incidents reported this year compared to 29 in 2022. Traffic enforcement is at 185 total tickets issued through January of 23. Overall police activity is 14.5% higher to last year, with 1,281 total incidents reported through January of 2023, compared to 1,108 total incidents through January of 2022. Of those 1,281 total incidents, 60 were assists to the fire department, 432 were self-initiated building or park checks, 161 were traffic stops, and 36 were closed home checks. Department members attended 172 hours of training, along with the completion of required monthly online training and Lexipol daily training bulletins. The police department welcomed a new member to the team. Matt Armanetta was hired as a probationary police officer and began the police academy on January 9th. He is slated for graduation at the end of April. Welcome, Officer Armenta. On January 9th, the police department placed the Axon body-worn cameras into service. We are still waiting on the Axon Fleet 3 in-car camera system, which has an anticipated delivery install date of May of 2023. Mark your calendars and do not miss out on the upcoming police department special events. The Polar Plunge for Illinois Special Olympics. This event will be taking place on Saturday, March 11th at the Oak Brook Bath and Tennis Club. The plunge starts at 1 p.m. More information can be found on the police department's Facebook page, including how you can donate to this great cause. The second police coffee with the chief and staff will be Wednesday, April 26th from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. at Panera Bread, located at 439 North LaGrange Road. Please follow the police department on our Facebook page at LaGrange Park Police Department, our Twitter account at LaGrange Park PD, and Instagram at LaGrange Park PD. A friendly reminder about securing one's personal property at all times. Please lock your vehicles and residences, especially during overnight hours. If you're going on vacation, please utilize the new online vacation watch portal, frontlinepss.com/LaGrange Park, or log on to the village website and access the portal under the police department page. If you do not have internet access, feel free to fill out a vacation watch card at the PD here at Village Hall between the hours of 9 a.m. and 4:30. Please contact Chief Contoys if you have any other questions or need additional information. Next, we have the fire department. Monthly activities for January 2023. Brief summary of the activities are as follows. EMS incidents this month, 141. This compares to January 2022 when there were 166. Fire and rescue incidents this month, 38. This compares with January 22 when there was 56. Staff worked on various occasions throughout the month in mounting equipment on our new pumper and conducting drivers training on such. A new StarCom radio was also installed. PSA paramedic firefighter. During the month, we lost the heat to the office portion of fire station number 2, which is an underfloor radiant heat system. Due to the age of the system, it's over 60 years old. We are evaluating the best option for repair or replacement. While conducting fire inspections, staff discovered a new business operating on Maple Avenue without a business license or occupancy permit. Also, replacement fire control panels at other locations appear to have been installed with permits or testing. Did I read that right, Dean?
I don't have it in front of me. Without permits or
Yeah, it should be without, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Just want to make sure. Thank you. As you are aware, while returning from a call in the overnight hours, ambulance 1214 was struck by a car traveling at a very high rate of speed on LaGrange Road at Garfield. Firefighters from the ladder truck who were traveling behind the ambulance used a rescue tool to get the door open on the car and provide immediate aid to the driver of the car. The driver was transported to Loyola by the LaGrange ambulance, and our 2 paramedics were transported to LaGrange by a Brookfield ambulance. The ambulance repairs are currently estimated approximately $25,000, and it is currently at a collision repair shop where repairs are expected to take about 4 weeks. Our training division hosted MABUS 10 Training and Safety Officers Committee monthly meeting. A representative from OSFM was on hand to help staff learn how to navigate, input, and classify our local records and activities that tie into the new state training tracking system. On Wednesday, January 11th at 9:12 p.m., the FD responded to a home in the 900 block of Robin Hood for a gas leak from the stove. On Saturday, January 14th at 4:43 a.m., FD responded to 326 Beach for an activated fire alarm. Upon arrival, there was smoke throughout the second floor with smoke coming from an apartment. PD and FD and duty officer forced open the apartment door and were met by a startled occupant who apparently fell asleep while cooking. The cooking fire was extinguished, the occupant evaluated by EMS, and personnel removed the smoke. On Monday, January 23rd at 2:32 p.m., the FD responded to a home on the 800 block of Homestead for a carbon monoxide alarm. Elevated readings of carbon monoxide were found due to a contractor using gas-powered equipment inside the basement. Personnel assisted with ventilating the carbon monoxide from the home. Next, Mr. President, we have Richmond Avenue discussion, on-street parking. General background: in recent years, Brainerd and Richmond area residents shared their concerns regarding Nazareth Academy students parking on Richmond between Park and Brainerd Avenue. Their concerns focused on traffic safety and congestion as vehicles are parked on both sides of the street. Currently, parking is not allowed on either side of Richmond Avenue between Edgewood Avenue and Park Road between the hours of 7 and 9 a.m. This restriction took effect in June of 2006 under Village Ordinance number 826. Throughout the school year, students from Nazareth Academy park on both sides of Richmond between Park and Brainerd. The number of vehicles can range from 10 to 14 vehicles prior to March or April, and then significantly increase after those months as sophomores get their driver's licenses and start driving to school. On November 9th, 2022, the Traffic Safety and Engineering Committee met to discuss the concern. Area residents Tim Sullivan, Patty Bovis, Don Viomi, and Dave Sefcik attended the meeting. Each of these residents shared their same concerns as they relate to the traffic safety and congestion. Upon the conclusion of the Traffic Safety and Engineering Committee discussion on this matter, the committee voted to recommend the following: remove no parking school days 7 to 9 a.m. signage on the south side of Richmond Avenue from Edgewood to Park. Add no parking school days 7 to 9 a.m. signage on the north side of Richmond Avenue between Park Road and Brainerd Avenue. On January 12th of this year, the police department delivered a letter to those residents on Richmond Avenue that would be potentially affected by this modification to the current village ordinances, and that memo is attached. Staff will brief us tonight, I guess, on the responses received. Staff recommends adoption of the attached ordinance, removing the 7 to 9 a.m. parking restriction on the south side of Richmond from Edgewood east to Park Road, and adding 7 to 9 a.m. parking restrictions on the north side of Richmond from Park Road to Brainerd. This item is for discussion only. If there's general agreement from the board, it will be placed on March 14th work session agenda for action, with the following motion reading at that time: motion to approve an ordinance amending Title 7, Chapter 76 of the Village of LaGrange Park Municipal Code, providing for permit parking.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Discussion?
Thank you, Mr. President. We received quite a bit of feedback and email, and some of them are concerning if this goes through. I guess my question to Chief Contois would be, is there any other way we could leave it the same way and have parking somehow between St. Joseph's and Nazareth worked out? Or if we start here removing it, are we going to remove it in other places? I'm not sold, so please help me.
So great question. We as staff have had several conversations with Nazareth Academy regarding the parking of vehicles from their students in their lot. One of the questions in one of the emails was this should be Nazareth's problem, and they actually meet the municipal code for parking. They actually exceed the parking that's required based on the enrollment of the school. One of the other issues is Nazareth Academy currently charges a permit fee for students to park in their lot. Some of those students don't want to pay that fee, and they choose to park on the residential streets. At this time, there's nothing that the village can do to require Nazareth Academy to remove that permit fee as they're a private institution. It's congested between that block on both sides of the street. I drive it pretty frequently. It's tough for emergency vehicles to get down. I think if we do nothing, we're just pushing the issue further and further east. So I think something does need to be done. I think the recommendation of the Traffic Safety and Engineering Committee will rectify the problem and the congestion. I know there's going to be some residents that are upset with the decision that's made, whatever that might be. But those residents that do live on Richmond can also park their vehicles or have their guests park on either Park, Malden, or Dover, right around the corner. I know some of the concerns were in your packets, and I'm sure you've all read that as well. So I think something needs to be done. I don't know what I can't give you 100% certainty that the decision that's made by the Traffic Safety and Engineering Committee is the end all be all. I don't know, but I can tell you that there is a problem.
Okay, thanks, Chief. I guess the other thing in reading what came across the medical hardship the one resident might experience. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a corner house. You know, whatever medical personnel have to respond to that house can also park around the corner. You know, it might have to walk a couple extra feet, but
am I mistaken? Was there something in there where they were asking for maybe 2 parking spaces not to be added so that they could have access, handicap access to their house?
Yes, sir, I believe you're correct.
Chief, might it be helpful, we have a map up here on the screen. Might it be helpful to maybe just kind of explain what's in place now and what is being proposed so that the village board can get a visual?
Sure.
In terms of where those parking restrictions would be and where the parking allowances would be and how that might impact the area.
Sure. So right now, you have Nazareth Academy to the west. Here's Richmond Avenue. There's currently no parking on Richmond from basically Edgewood or Nazareth Academy's fence all the way down to Park Road. So there's no parking from 7 to 9 on both sides of the street. So all of the kids that drive to Nazareth currently are parking between Park Road and Brainerd on both sides of the street. That specific block has no parking regulations in place. So you have 10 to 14 vehicles that are parking on both sides of the street, which it's very hard for emergency vehicles, especially probably the ladder truck or the ambulance, to get by. So what the Traffic and Safety Engineering Committee recommended is allowing parking on one side of Richmond, which would be the south side, from Edgewood all the way down to Brainerd, and then having restrictions on the north side of Richmond from Brainerd to Edgewood. So parking would be allowed only on one side of the street. So you're taking all the vehicles that are parked in a one-block area and you're spreading out that congestion.
And that's only, and that's only from 7 to 9?
Correct.
Okay. And was there any look at like extending those hours till noon or something? Because I don't know if they have late start or, I mean, I don't really know all the details to this, so that's why I'm asking.
So if you can make it from all day from 7 to 3, but you still currently have no restrictions in this area. So. So that was put in place back in '06. There was a decision made because the Nazareth students generally arrive for school at 7:30. If they have a late start, they might start at 8:30. Okay. So those students were allowed to park between that time frame. There's also permit parking was allowed. So if a resident had someone, a guest or a caregiver, there was permits that the village would issue. And they could put it in the guest's vehicle.
So are you concerned this is just going to push us down further?
Down further. If we do nothing, I think it's going to continue to go further east. right? So you have some restrictions down by Ogden Avenue School, both for the school parking and then those that commute to the train. So there's currently restrictions on, I believe, Edgewood, Malden, Dover, and Park. Also from the 3, 4, and 500 blocks, no parking 7 to 9.
Chief, do we, it might be hard to find out actual, so the cars or the students that are parking in the designated parking area, do we have a percentage? What of them are at LaGrange Park and what of them are out of town?
I don't believe any of them are LaGrange Park residents.
So Nazareth being a private funded school, and our residents are gonna pay the consequences of too much parking, or it's hard for me to bite down hard on this one.
I don't usually allow, but go ahead, make it
I
quick.
have something to say. I live on Edgewood, Richmond, on 347. So we see the traffic, which is, I realize it's a school. However, these parents, they're picking up their kids. They're parking on both sides of the street.
Yeah.
Her side, she's my neighbor, our side, and they're backed up all the way to Malden. When the weather's bad, picking up their kids. So, what are you gonna do? If not, it's very dangerous because the cars are lined up on both sides of the street. Kids are coming out of Naz, a few kids are coming from the grade school.
Yeah, sure.
And the street, you can only get one car through
Sure.
each direction, and
Keep in mind, though, that's only for 15 minutes, where you have vehicles that are parked within this one block for 8.5 hours.
it's actually a little longer because you've got the grade school and you've got Nazareth. But I will say, I walk the street, I walk Richmond a lot. And the parking, like you're saying, it's right by the junior high between Park and Brainerd. How many of those cars, though, are teachers' cars?
I don't believe any of them are. I believe they're all Nazareth students.
Because there was one time I was walking the dog, and a teacher or somebody said, well, I think these are teachers' cars, these are kids' cars. I don't see that many kids parking. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just saying. It tends to be a cluster, but, we live by a school, so it is what it is, So.
But it is a little dicey when they're coming out in the afternoon because parents are pulling up on both sides of the street and they're trying to get off of Edgewood onto Richmond to wait, and there's only so many.
And Edgewood's, that's crazy anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of scary sometimes because people are trying to squeeze through. You have cars parked on both sides of the street, and then they're trying to go 2 cars down the street at the same time. And it is a little nerve-wracking.
To this point, though, there are cars on both sides of the street in that area for all day. And
In that all day,
vehicles can't
it's
get
just,
down the street.
no, it's just in the afternoon when parents are picking up, like they park in front of both of our houses and on Edgewood and on Richmond. And you've also got younger kids coming through. It's sort of scary.
But there's a lot of activity in that area versus it just having cars on the other side of the street and they're just there all day. You're talking about the actual activity that's taking place in that short amount of just pickup drop off is the major concern is what I'm gathering.
For the most part, again, like sometimes I have a hard time getting into or out of my own driveway because they park to squeeze as many cars in as they can. They're up on, as far as they can get on people's driveways. So there's probably no answer because there's just more people all the time, but it is sometimes very challenging.
Yeah, I don't know what the 100% answer is. I don't see Nazareth closing its doors and or moving locations. So, currently, where parking is allowed, it's congested.
Chief, does Nazareth have, just off, do they have space for those cars or not?
Yes and no. When I drove through the lot, when I counted, they had 10 open spots. They told me, though, that all of the permits for all of the spots were sold, and they had a waiting list of 20 people that were willing to buy tags.
They're parking on Richmond, yeah.
So maybe the day I drove through, those kids got a ride to school with somebody else, or they were sick, or whatnot.
Okay, Trustee Sheehan, you are right. Trustee Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. One question for the chief. I don't quite understand what changing the side of the street for parking would do. Like, instead of parking on the south side, you're now parking on the north side, or instead of parking on the north side, you're now parking on the south side. You know, really, what
Sure. So
difference does it make?
So we decided on the south side because of the school lot here, right? So you have the less impact on residential driveways if parking is allowed on the south side because of the field here.
Currently, they're parking on both sides of the street.
Yeah, currently they're parking on the north and south side of Richmond between Park and Brainerd. There's currently no parking west of Park Road on either side of Richmond between 7 and 9.
I drove it today, so I'm aware of that. But my concern is if you're going to move it, I mean, the one resident that has a medical hardship, and it's a true hardship, is definitely going to be more affected if cars are allowed to park on the south side of that street.
Sure, but keep in mind,
you know, from Edgewood going east.
Sure, keep in mind though that the restrictions on the north-south streets are still going to be in place. So the car that would park on Richmond Avenue to enter into the person's house, they can park on Dover or Malden since it's a corner house.
Okay. So really, it doesn't mean, so you're saying that you're concerned about the field and that the parking on the south side of Richmond would be more conducive to the field at Park Junior High?
Sure, it would impact less residential driveways. If you were to count the driveways on the south side and the north side, the south side has less because of the field at Richmond
Okay.
and Park.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Trustee Stewart, any additional comments?
I mean, so you're just essentially spreading out that concentration that's there.
Correct.
Trustee Zora?
I just had one more question, and just because I'm trying to make sure I understand everything. So is there any reason why we wouldn't do a restriction for pickup too at the same side of the street, like no parking from 2 to 3:30 so that they're not blocking both sides of the street? Because I know we have some signs in the village that say like during rush hour you can't turn left, similar to that.
It's more of a pickup.
I guess where do you go?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
I don't know. You know, I know at Forest Road School there's signs that say no parking, stopping, standing during pickup.
And like LT has that in front, where the Grange comes out and gives you a ticket if you're sitting there. I don't know. We don't have a ticket person designated just to doing parking tickets, but I don't know. I'm just asking. I really don't. If this is the best decision, I'm in favor of it, but I don't know that I entirely understand everything that's happening here. So that's why I'm asking if there are other ways to help.
So really,
the
you know,
double parking.
Yeah, there'd be no. Even if you allowed parking on the south side of Richmond during the school pickup, even with doing nothing, you're going to have vehicles parked on Richmond during school pickup. That's where the parents go. So for that 15 or 20 minutes, you're going to have vehicles that have been parked there all day, And then you're going to have the vehicles parked on the north side, the parents that are picking up their kids. So really, I don't see a difference in the congestion. You're just spreading it out more.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Hold on, Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think we all would probably agree that the number one concern is safety. I think it's probably the main point. But I guess I'm struggling also. I view the parking on our streets by the Nazareth student body as a luxury. And I'm having a hard time swallowing, like a couple of my other co-trustees said, that, you know, we're going to have an additional impact on our residents to accommodate the luxury of Nazareth. Not, you know, great neighbors, we love them to death being here. But it appears to me that there's places on the Nazareth property when there's football games and things of that nature that don't normally have parking during the course of the school day. So I guess I'm coming down on the side that perhaps we ought to be thinking about expanding the no parking zone down to Brainerd on both sides with some way of figuring out how do we control the afternoon pickup process. I know it's a lot more convenient. That's why they're going over there, because of the traffic that's over on the campus grounds. I get all that, but I view it as a luxury for the Nazareth students that I'm not real strong about impacting our residents to accommodate their luxuries. So that's where I am at this point.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. I'm kind of leaning like Trustee Lautner here. You know, Nazareth gets money for their students to park in their lot, and they're parking on our streets for nothing and causing us all the harm.
And they have more spaces.
And they have more spaces that they can utilize, I'm sure, because as Trustee Lautner said during the football games, there's parking all over the place.
Yeah, and that was brought up. I brought that up to them. You know, during the football games, they park on the grass field between the current paved teacher lot and Ogden Avenue. Their reasoning was they can't plow it in the winter because it's grass, and it would be another fiscal responsibility on their end to have to do the storm sewer and drainage and pave it and maintain it.
Maybe we should institute a sticker policy too. We charge the students for parking on our streets.
Yep.
I mean, we have to pay for it. We have to get stickers for our cars. I just don't like the fact that Nazareth is closing their eyes because, you know, they've reached their limit in permits, so they've given them all out. Well, they can increase it and find additional parking, when in fact we're making our residents adjust to their need, and it's impacting our residents significantly. Yes.
It's not just parking during the day, but the parents who come to pick their kids up makes it a nightmare. Sometimes we can't get out of our own driveway because they pull up, you know, and we're back in, you know, so we can't get out. And they're parked on both sides of the street to wait for their kids, which I understand, but then you can't get out of your driveway.
Right.
You may even have trouble getting into your driveway, so if they would only park on one side of the street, it would make it also a lot easier for those of us who live right on Richmond between Brainerd and sometimes you're kind of like trapped, and they park all the way to the, you know, they park all the way to the end of each street, so you can't get around them either. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, ma'am, what's your name?
Janet Brzezinski.
And I guess that's my point, is if we're going to restrict it from 7 to 9, why can't we restrict it from 2 to 3:30? And those people that park there get tickets. And even the residents. I mean, I'm sorry if you can't park there between 2 to 3:30, but then it's one side of the street. So they can't park on that one side, and then we wouldn't have the issue of people parking on both sides.
Yeah, I think one of the concerns was, you know, do we really want to start littering our streets with additional signage. You know, we have signage on every one of those streets between Edgewood and Park. So, you know,
Wouldn't you use the same sign that you'd put up there? It would say no parking 7 to 9 a.m., no parking 2 to 3:30. Because you're moving the sign across the street. So wouldn't the new signs just have the times on them? Because the old ones are being removed?
But if you had somebody working for you, doing work at your house, they may have to park on your side of the street, so you'd have to call
Well,
into the police department.
I guess
and say,
that's the caveat, that you guys would have to deal with that. But then that would prevent people from parking on both sides of the streets and causing a backup.
Right. People would just move over a little bit to wait for their kids. It happens at LT, it's the same thing. But my question to the chief of police is, why do they park on those two particular streets where, I'm thinking of it visually, when the kids are walking, what is it about those streets?
there's currently no parking restrictions at all.
And there are to the closer streets?
There are west of Park. On Richmond, between Edgewood and Park, there are restrictions on both sides of the street. From Park to Brainerd, there are no restrictions at all.
And so, okay, so then why are the restrictions there and not extended?
That's a great question. The ordinance was put in place in 2006, and I cannot answer that question for you.
I mean, kids will find other places to park, but I mean, if the parking restrictions were extended, then it would be more inconvenient for them, and so some of them then may buy that parking permit or park. Kids don't want to park in the lot because they want to get out faster. That's how that works. Just like picking up an LT, it works the same way. They don't want to park in the lot in those 10 spots because they're caught in all that congestion. So let's park on the street where you can zoom out.
All right, you guys,
That's understandable.
Trustee Sheehan?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if this will help between now and March 14th, Chief Contois, but you made mention earlier that they have a waiting list of 20. Can you get with Nazareth and see if they can't work something out with St. Joseph, or Sisters of St. Joseph's? And the other thing the resident mentioned earlier, and I agree with you, the 300 block of Park is horrible. And as Dean to get a fire truck down there, God forbid if he needs to, and it's going to be hard. I mean, maybe we need restrictions over there too. I don't know. But in the meantime, can we see that they can work something out internally to get those 20 spaces? So maybe they move back over there. If they can afford Nazareth for 1 year, they can afford a parking permit.
Would you like me to answer that, or do you want to answer that question?
We've had that meeting.
Several.
Several. But if the board directs us to do that, there's the potential that they take it more seriously. To have that conversation, we certainly don't have the code to back us up, but we have met with them on several occasions and have even worked with them to identify additional parking places on the whole campus, whether or not they owned the property or had leasing rights over the property or not. We've looked at every option on their campus. But if the board directs us to go back and work with them, we can have another meeting. I'm not sure that the outcome will be any differently. There are other options in terms of putting restrictions, parking restrictions in place, other than what has been recommended by the Traffic Safety and Engineering Committee. Certainly we can look at that. There's also the option of a pilot, trying something out, studying it to see what the behaviors are so that we can figure out whether it makes sense. We have options, but certainly if you continue to restrict the parking on both sides of the street, eastwardly, it's going to push the problem. I understand that it may cause some students to weigh the options between purchasing a $1,000 parking pass or walking another block. I understand that. My guess is it's just going to move the problem down the street. So my guess is what the Traffic Safety and Engineering Committee was looking at was how to redistribute it with a lesser impact in any given area, rather than move a concentrated problem further east to another neighborhood.
What is it, 500 or 1,000?
It's $500 for the year. And just to
My apologies, I
No.
really thought.
Don't worry.
I asked.
Just to let the board know, we have had multiple conversations over multiple years with Nazareth Academy. This is not the first time that we have received complaints about the vehicles parked there. So this was our last resort to bring this to the board.
General stance when you speak to them about this?
They are a private institution, and the Village of LaGrange Park cannot dictate or require them to do stuff to their property.
Well, and they also said in the past, Tim, you told me, that they say it's a village issue. If we want to restrict parking on our streets, that's our
Put the
prerogative.
signs up.
So
Yeah.
they're encouraging us to enact series of parking prohibitions. And I do believe also that you keep saying the problem will necessarily get pushed to the east if you restrict parking on both sides of Richmond, all the way from Edgewood to Brainerd. But there's going to come a point in time, as LT has found, where kids won't walk. They'll figure something else out. They won't park a mile away. So I don't think we have to end up restricting parking throughout the village to solve this problem. But I think it's not effective to go back to Nazareth again and ask them to install the parking spaces. They're not going to. The last time they agreed to do that was when they built the theater, which was an expansion of their building. And at that point, their enrollment was much lower than it is now. And they agreed at that point in time to provide parking for all of their students and teachers on their campus. But like I said, enrollment has gone up significantly since that time.
Okay, so we have a motion before us. Discussion only. So any other comments from any other board members? Trustee?
I just, one more thing, sorry.
Sure.
I agree with Attorney Keating. I think at some point they're going to stop parking over there, especially if we're ticketing, because that's the whole thing at LT. As soon as you sit there, you get a ticket. So, and not that we have a lot of staff that can just sit there for between 7 and 9 all day, but if you're doing it repeatedly, then at some point they will stop. I mean, I'm still in favor of ticketing and restricting in the afternoon too, but if that's not on the table, then I'm fine with doing this for right now.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none? Okay, it'll be placed on the agenda next meeting. And Trustee Zora, you can follow through with that if you'd like. Yeah.
Mr. President?
Yes, Trustee Sheehan?
May I ask point of reference, is there consensus, all of us, for it to be put on?
Consensus isn't necessary because of the meeting cancellation, everything kind of got moved one meeting. And so we don't have a consent agenda at the work session meeting. So it would just be placed on the agenda again.
So the wording says general agreement. Can we have a voice vote that we're all in agreement?
No.
Or not in agreement?
You can't
How do
vote.
we know if there's general agreement?
You can't vote because it's just on for discussion.
Again, I don't know how you're going to decide general agreement.
We're going to vote on it next meeting.
Okay, the way it's worded.
The way it's worded right now, unless something else comes forward in the process. But right now it stands, we're doing the motion that's presented.
On the March 14th
Correct.
session.
Yes.
Doesn't make sense.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, I arrived late. I live at 831 Richmond, right behind Park Junior High. And I am just curious, how long does this process keep getting pushed another month? Because I've called the police station several times already this year. The same things, people are saying that they park sticking out, blocking our driveways. And it's impossible for me to get out of my driveway, so I had to come to the resort that they're gonna be issued a ticket and hopefully the kids will learn how to park on the street, but it's a dangerous situation.
All right. It'll be voted.
Garbage trucks can't fit through.
You're on the south side?
Okay, can I ask one more? And I know we're not supposed to talk to the audience, but what are your thoughts about restricting it in the afternoon? Just one side.
I didn't hear what she said. Like just for after school? I don't know, I feel like the problem is the students are there all day and I can't get out of my driveway.
Yes, I think, if I can say, if nothing is done, we still walk away with the same issue. You've got congestion on the north and south side. If we're here to talk about safety vehicles can't get through.
Right.
Garbage trucks can't get through. People's driveways are blocked. So if we walk away and do nothing, we're gonna be back again in 5 years. You know, like it's in perpetuity. This all stems from 2006. You know, something needs to be done. And if that means that, in fairness, one side of the street is less congested than the other, I think that's a fair for all of us.
Now, if somebody's parking in somebody's driveway, that really just has to do with the one side or the other side.
In between our houses, I live next to Tim, there's a very small section that is not a parking spot, but they park there. And then the tail of their car will be on the other side of my driveway. And a car across the street, so it's impossible for me to see even cars coming. And we have kids coming from St. Joseph, 3 different schools in the area. There's a million kids constantly walking our streets, and it's so dangerous. Like, we're gonna wait until there's a horrible incident and then realize this is a serious issue.
Could you give me your name, please, ma'am?
Dawn Guillaume.
All right, okay.
You know what, I have a quick question. I was listening to you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you're right.
We're-
So what happens with their leaf
Yeah.
pickup when we've got the kids, because they're gonna be parking on my side of the street, snow pickup, because we pile our leaves in the street, but the kids are gonna be parked all over them. How are they gonna get picked up if the kids are parked there?
I can answer that because
All right, we're gonna move on.
President
Okay.
you call the village and you say, can you make sure you come before the kids start their
Oh, all right, so then now I have to.
Mr. President.
That's
Well, that's what we
ridiculous.
always have to do.
Yeah, it's a problem. We'll,
But I'm just
Yes.
like forward thinking about that stuff.
Right.
I mean, we know Monday the leaf guys are gonna come and what about our snow?
right.
I can take all the information.
Okay, and you'll get to them then?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Mr. President.
we're gonna move on.
I have one clarification.
Final question, go ahead.
No, it's not a question, it's clarification. So if the board does not have general agreement tonight,
There's no
place
agreement, we're not doing any agreement tonight.
okay, but the
At the next
wording,
meeting.
okay, so the wording for tonight, for motion/action would be for the next meeting, not
Correct.
tonight?
Not tonight, next meeting. No motion tonight.
Okay, so if everybody is in
Then they
agreement,
vote yes.
okay, thank you.
Right. They just vote yes. Anything else, you guys? It's a never-ending discussion because there's no real solution yet, but, I mean, we'll work with you. Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Next, we have
D.
self-contained breathing apparatus purchase. And for an update, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Magus for the update.
Thank you. I'm not sure the correct approach to this, but I'll explain the situation. I had asked not to address the situation tonight. As you're aware, on last Friday morning, we were notified that we were awarded a FEMA grant in the amount of $233,000. $183,000 is dedicated towards self-contained breathing apparatus, and the remaining money is dedicated towards mobile radios for our fire apparatus. which we need because we don't have Starcom capabilities in our fire apparatus. We work on portable radios. So it's an enhancement we've wanted for years, just didn't know how to do it, so we had put in for a grant. We wrote the grant, or I wrote the grant last January prior to the budget being finalized that we're currently in, so we did not have money dedicated to any extent when I submitted the grant. FEMA was delayed this year. They should have closed their grant awards months ago because they've started a new grant application process, and that has since closed, but they were awarded some additional money and were told they had to spend it either through some COVID bill or something else. So the timing is kind of messed us up here. So in any event, since that time and since I submitted to FEMA for the grant, the prices, as everything, have gone up substantially. I need to get some things, ducks in a row. I've met with the vendor this morning to get, really see what the prices are, where we're at, based on what FEMA's awarding us, make sure that we do it right so we don't get ourselves in trouble and that we can use this FEMA money. We cannot buy ahead, we cannot purchase anything. And even if we tried with the new pricing, as you saw in the initial memo, we can't afford it all even with the FEMA grant. So I'm not sure the process, if it gets removed from the agenda, if you can do that at this point, but my intent is to bring it back at the work session in March after I make sure that we can afford everything and how we're going to do that, and we have everything itemized better. I don't want to jeopardize the FEMA grant. It's great that we can, that we've gotten it, but I would just like to take a pause at this point to make sure that we are doing things properly.
Okay, so we'll postpone it until next meeting.
If you can, that'd be
Yes,
great.
absolutely.
And again, it may be, I don't know if you postpone it or you remove it, but I'll rewrite a memo and it may change depending on, the grant awards for 28 SCBAs for $183,000, which isn't going to
You're
work.
just removing it from the agenda.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you.
That's all.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
We don't need the motion to table, Mr.
Nope.
President?
Next one, Trustee Sheehan.
Next will be the sale of surplus vehicles and equipment. As you are aware, the fire department has purchased a new engine, fire apparatus, commonly referred to as a pumper. As such, we would like to designate our 1992 pumper as surplus and then begin marketing it for sale. And the following information on the vehicle determined to be surplus is a 1992 Spartan Darley pumper engine with the following VIN. Staff recommends declaring the vehicle surplus by approval of an ordinance. Tonight, Mr. President, discussion and action, sale of a surplus vehicle and equipment. I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing the sale or disposal of surplus property of the Village of LaGrange Park, Illinois.
Second.
Motion to second, discussion, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad the new pumper is in. I guess Dean, Chief Magus, we're going to look to sell this ourselves. We're not going to, there was no talk of the trade-in with the new engine, or how in the past, I think with some police vehicles, we've sold them to wholesalers just to be done.
Yeah, we're not sure. We believe there's a better market than any time in the past based on the availability and timing of manufacturing vehicles. I anticipate that we will give it to one of these auction sites, not just, at some where they get some type of cut, or that we will actually go out for bid and take bids, just to try and get the best dollar for it.
Very
That's
good.
that's what I anticipate at this point.
Thank you.
Any other comments from any board members? Seeing none, Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zora?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy.
That concludes public safety, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. And moving on with the Trustee Sheehan show, we have the Public Works Committee.
Next is the Department of Public Works report for January 2023. Staff repaired 2 water main breaks and replaced 3 lead service lines with copper pipe. 5 separate snow events occurred for the month. Staff completed salting and/or plowing operations for these events. Pothole work was performed in all sections of the village and will continue throughout next month. Street patches and parkway restorations were completed from previous utility excavations. Sinot Tree Service has continued this year's cycle pruning program and should finish this week. DPW staff is also working on in-house trims on smaller diameter trees. GIS work has continued collecting data on the village-owned assets along with continued training throughout the village. Water meters were read in Section 1. 15 monthly bacterial and quarterly Stage 2 water samples were taken. Various water and sewer work orders were completed along with resident tree concerns and general construction inquiries. Routine maintenance of the department's fleet and equipment was performed as well on police and fire vehicles. I have 2 action items. Next will be the hydro excavation or potholing of water service lines. The purpose, staff is seeking the village board's approval to award a contract to Hydro EXC Inc. to pothole existing water services to determine service line material at 100 locations in the village. General background is a part of the Lead Service Line Replacement and Notification Act. The village must provide IEPA with a service line materials inventory. Hancock Engineering has completed many in-home inspections as part of this process and has recorded more copper services than lead services. While this may be positive finding, the village engineers and staff are still determining if the private service line material is representative of the material used from the water main to the Buffalo box. Although IEPA states that unearthing is not required to assess the material used for water services, taking a small sample throughout the village would significantly enhance the inventory data and assist the village engineers and staff in determining the overall project cost to replace lead service lines. 100 sample locations are proposed. Hydro excavation or potholing is a method to excavate underground utilizing high pressure water and a vacuum tube. This technique is very effective for locating utilities without damaging them. It is quick and requires minimal restoration compared to traditional open cut method. Hancock Engineering prepared bid specifications and a bid opening was held on February 1st at 10 o'clock. 4 bidders returned bids. You see them listed below. The engineer's estimate came in at $240 per excavation. Total price $24,000. HydroX, believe it was the lowest bidder, $470 per site, $47,000. And it goes on, National Industrial and Maintenance, Sheridan Plumbing, and Calumet City Plumbing. In March of 2022, the village entered into an agreement with Hancock Engineering for a not-to-exceed amount of $246,330 to provide services related to the Lead Service Line Replacement and Notification Act. While the hydro excavation project has not been specifically budgeted, Hancock's engineering costs are trending well under the budgeted amount and sufficient funds are available for this added service. Staff recommends approval of the contract with Hydro Excavating. I would think that's what the EXC stands for, correct? In tonight's meeting. Therefore, Mr. President, at this time, I'll make a motion. 1, to approve a contract with Hydro Excavating, Inc. in the amount of $47,000 for hydro excavating potholing of water service lines, and 2, to authorize the village manager to execute the contract documents.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I know from a previous life, there's a lot of stuff underground that we don't know what the material is. We used to call it unknown service pipe histories for each address. So you can carry that over from gas service lines to water service lines. These excavations work. They'll do what, if I'm correct, Director Reddy, just before the valve box and just after?
These we're actually going to do right at the back of the curb because we're only concerned about the village portion. So we're going to go right at the back of the curb. It'll be an 8-inch hole, suck down, determine the material, get a picture of it, identify it, backfill it with gravel, and move on to the next one.
Okay, so at this time, it's not for what's after the homeowner.
Correct. We are only worried about the village portion.
Okay, yeah, I mean, this works. hardly even know they're there when they're finished, and I think it'll be a good tool to exactly see what exact service pipe is in the ground throughout the village.
Thank you, trustee Sheehan. Any other comments from any trustee? Seeing none, Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner.
Yes.
Trustee Zora.
Yes.
Trustee Council.
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy.
Okay, next we go to the Park Road Water Main Replacement Project. Request for bids. The purpose, staff is seeking the village board's approval to request formal bids for the Park Road Water Main Replacement Project prior to fiscal year 2023-2024. General background, the Park Road Water Main Replacement Project has been included in the village's 5-year plan for several years and is slated for fiscal year 2023-2024. Given the potential shortage of key materials and escalating prices, the village engineer and staff would like to bid this project early in an attempt to secure more favorable pricing and to provide ample time for the contractor to purchase and receive the needed materials. Awarding the contract early may also provide enough time to get this project substantially complete before the fall semester will begin at Park Junior High School. Design engineering for this project is complete and it's shovel ready. If the board approves the motion, the bid process will begin immediately and staff anticipates seeking the board's approval to award the contract in March. The bid documents would state that construction must start after May 1st, 2023 to coincide with the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. Staff recommends that the village board authorize Hancock Engineering to proceed with the competitive bid process for the Park Road Water Main Replacement Project as soon as possible. Therefore, Mr. President, I make a motion to authorize Hancock Engineering to proceed with the competitive bid process for the Park Avenue Water Main Replacement Project.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion, trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been on the 5-year plan for 2 years. I think the timing's right. I think if we do it this way, we're gonna save money, and it'd be nice to get the project in the ground and done before school goes back, because that would be a big safety concern. But I agree with staff and the engineer that the time to do this is now.
Any other comments from any of the board members? Seeing none, Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner.
Yes.
Trustee Zora.
Yes.
Trustee Council.
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy.
That concludes Public Works, Mr. President.
Thank you, trustee Sheehan. Moving on to Finance Committee, trustee Lauder.
Thank you, Mr. President. Finance report through the end of January. General fund revenue is at 78.9% of the annual budget of $10,575,350 at $8,346,387. And to date, the village has collected approximately $1.8 million in property tax revenues versus a budget of $3.88 million. By comparison, the village received $1.872044 in property tax revenues as of January 31st, 2022, last fiscal year. The majority of the property tax revenue received was in the months of December and January, and collections have finally caught up to the approximately where they were last fiscal year. Utility taxes are higher by almost $58,000 or 14.7%, due primarily to an increase in natural gas tax receipts as prices have increased. Despite the challenging economy, state sales tax revenues are up $34,552 year over year at $702,359. State income tax revenues have increased $264 and $424, or about 19% to $1.6 million, and personal property replacement tax revenue is $60,676 higher than a year ago. Permit receipts are up almost $530,416 compared to prior year, primarily due to an increase in new construction permits. Charges for services are higher by about $156,000 or 23%, mainly due to increased ambulance fee receipts. Fines are down about $29,247 or 27.7%. A big portion of this is due to decrease in parking and compliance ticket collections. and 75% through our fiscal year. Total general fund expenditures are at $7.6 million, which is approximately 75% of the total budget expenditures of $10,772,315. And most importantly, expenditures for all departments are within expectations, 75% through the fiscal year. And that concludes the financial report through January. Moving on. A couple items for discussion and action. First of all is regarding audit services authorization of additional expenses, Part 2. Village is required by state law to submit an annual audit performed by a certified public accounting firm. In January 2021, the village signed a 2-year service agreement with PKD, now called Forvis, for auditing services. The service agreement included a total cost of $35,700 to conduct this year's annual comprehensive financial report. With staff turnover of the finance director and the delay in the county property tax levy, the audit fieldwork and subsequent document review was very challenging. Forvis reported that additional work completed by their firm fell outside of the scope of the agreement, and as previously noted in staff's November memo to the village board. At the November village board meeting, the village board approved an additional $15,000 at a total cost of $50,700. Village staff calculated this amount given feedback from Forvis after requesting the total remaining cost associated with the audit. Recently, the village received an additional and unanticipated invoice, which if paid will be $4,187 over the village board's previously approved amount. Staff asked Forvis why the costs exceeded anticipated amounts, and their reply was such that there was a miscommunication. While staff has attempted to achieve a resolution on this matter, Forvis maintains that the invoice is for services rendered and must be paid. They explained that the additional billings are simply a necessity in terms of recouping costs for time incurred beyond the normal audit scope. Therefore, a second authorization for additional expenses is requested in the amount of $4,187. Staff recommends that the village board authorize additional funds to complete the work necessary for the fiscal year 2022 comprehensive audit. It's an item for discussion this evening, and as such, I'll submit a motion to authorize an additional $4,187 in expenses associated with the additional work provided by Forvis, previously BKD, in order to complete audit services for fiscal year 2022.
Second. Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Lautner?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if staff or if the board has had a chance to read the trustee inquiry that came out this afternoon, but needless to say, I'm not happy, staff is not happy, and it's not a good situation. There are a lot of things that I think went into additional expenses. Understand that some on our part, mostly on their part. In the final analysis, I do believe, after an extensive conversation with Julia, that every single effort to get them to consider reduction or possible elimination of this has been incurred. We could certainly take the hard stand and say we're just not paying it, which my gut tells me is the right thing to do in this case. But considering all factors, I don't believe it is ultimately the right thing to do, primarily because going forward, they did, and I am convinced and comfortable that they did absorb a significant amount of expense that they didn't charge us for. And I think if we would take the stand of not paying this, I do believe that potentially there could be litigation, and I certainly don't think it's worth that. Unfortunately, I think probably more payroll expenses have already been incurred than the invoice of $41.87. I think it's a bad situation. But at the final analysis, final thought I have on this is to support paying it and moving on. And you'll see in the next point that I'll have an opportunity to discuss where we are recommending, staff is recommending that we go out to bid for next year's audit firm. And I clearly will support that. But at this point, I'm going to recommend that we end up paying this and not be happy about it.
Comments from the board? Any comments?
Just disappointed.
Very disappointing, and I agree wholeheartedly with Trustee Lautner that had it, if not for a potential, victimization of the village by, a lawsuit against us, yeah, let's pay the fee, but I think that they really deserve some strong words, Julia, and I applaud your efforts and staff's efforts in trying to gain this back for us. I would really be hesitant to ever engage with them again. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Council. Any other comments?
I mean, I would
Trustee
just,
Stewart?
yeah, sorry, Mr. President. I mean, I would just say that they're essentially at risk of losing our business, so it doesn't
make a
really
good
make a
business
whole lot of
sense.
sense from a fiscal standpoint. So, again, there are a number of accounting firms out there, auditing firms, there's like 1 billion of them. So, once we get, Austin's recommendations, I mean, I think we have a good opportunity to move forward with a better situation. I mean, you can't say it's a misunderstanding. I mean, that's a very crappy response to that sort of situation. So it's less about the money and more about the principle.
The relationship.
Yep.
Trustee Leitner?
Just to add to that, it certainly takes two parties to have a misunderstanding there, and there was not even any consideration of, okay, let's split it, worst case. But had it not been for the amount of effort that Julie extended in working with taking them to task on this, I would have been standing tight on not paying it, but I am comfortable as usual that you have extended every single appropriate effort to try to get reconciliation. So I certainly would support it.
Probably one of the worst $4,100 business decisions I've seen made.
Yeah.
They just cut their throat. It's amazing.
Unless they decided they didn't want to work with the village anymore.
But they may not want to work with us anymore. That's okay too. Okay, any other, so you see no other comments? Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zorro?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy. Continue, Trustee Leitner.
Thank you, Mr. President, and it gives me great pleasure to move forward into this next topic. The village is required by state law to have an annual audit completed by a certified public accounting firm. Staff has prepared a request for proposals document for auditing services, which is scheduled to be sent out to potential firms on March 1, 2023. Proposals will be due on March 31. The proposed review process will begin with an evaluation of proposals by the finance director. The finance director's top 3 proposals will be provided to the finance committee along with a recommended firm on April 11th. The village board is scheduled to review the recommendation at the April 11th work session and approve a firm at the April 25 board meeting. Staff, of course, recommends to authorize the staff to issue a request for proposal for audit services. Items for discussion and action. As such, I'll submit a motion to proceed with issuing a request for proposals for auditing services.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Trustee Leitner?
With a hearty, I support it.
No ifs, ands, or buts, right?
Yeah.
Any other comments from any board member? Sandy, call the roll.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
Trustee Zorro?
Yes.
Trustee Council?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you, Trustee Leitner.
And I believe that concludes my topics for the finance area this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you. Okay, other reports, village clerk.
No report at this time, Mr. President.
Heck of a job, Sandy. Our village treasurer. No report. Village engineer. No report. Our village attorney.
No report.
Commercial Revitalization Committee, trustee Stewart.
No report, I'm kidding.
Moving on. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a January CRC report. We have streetscape improvement plan. Tonight we had a draft improvement plan presented to us today, and we provided feedback to the consultant team on the proposed plan recommendations. As a reminder, all project documents and a summary of community engagement activities from the past year can be found on the village's website. Andy's Frozen Custard. Save the date for the grand opening at Andy's Frozen Custard on 531 North LaGrange Road on Thursday, March 16th. Join the Village of LaGrange Park and the Village LaGrange Park Chamber of Commerce for ribbon cutting event at 11 a.m. Enjoy games and activities between 11:30 and 3 p.m. and celebrate all day with $2 one-topping sundaes. Lastly, Run for the Roses. The LaGrange Park Chamber of Commerce is hosting Run for the Roses, a 5K race for runners and walkers on Mother's Day, Sunday, May 14th at 8 a.m. Half of all proceeds will benefit Interfaith Community Partners, a local not-for-profit organization that works with volunteers to provide accompanied transportation for older adults to appointments and errands. Take advantage of early bird registration pricing at $30 per entry and get a team of family, friends, and coworkers together for this great event. Early bird prices end on April 1st. Register online. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, trustee Stewart. I would like to thank the CRC committee, trustee Stewart, you as chair, and trustee Zora and trustee Silva and the staff for the amount of work that you guys have put out in the streetscape program. It looks phenomenal, and can't wait to start instituting it. So Maggie and Julia and committee, thank you. Motion to approve committee and collectors reports as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I do have two items. Trustee Zora and I were approached by the library to see if we could help influence them getting their grant that they applied for. So we made contact with Speaker Welch, and again, I have to commend Speaker Welch for coming through for our community. I got a letter today from him and forwarded it to trustee Zora and the board, library board, that they will be getting $575,000, I believe. Wow. 572 or something like that. But it's there and they're getting it, and thanks to the efforts of Speaker Welch for going to bat for us again. It's just amazing. The last thing I have is I just want to thank all of you who are on this table, starting with Julia and Maggie and Chief and Austin and Mark and Chief and Rick, for your professionalism. I think we're all aware of the disaster and the thing that happened in Westmont with their public works situation, where they lost a public works employee because of an accident. I have to say our people are as professional as they come. You guys have always been safety oriented and strict in your discipline, and I just want to thank all of you for all that you do for helping our employees be safe out there and to do the right thing. So accidents will happen. We're grateful it's not in LaGrange Park. But Rick, thank you, and I know it's been a devastation for your department. Just an unfortunate incident. $574,000 just came in. So you got a grant for $574,000 thanks to Speaker Welch. So that's all that I have. Any public participation? Seeing none. Any new business from the board? No. Seeing none. Any motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Everybody have a great week.